Welcome to McChats here on McGTV, youtube.com/MikeMcGTV. Follow me on Twitter at MikeMcGTV. For this installment, again, it's just me here, doing my own thing, going solo. I promise, Dan especially, we will get to the Coffin Joe reviews very soon. I will get around to finally sitting down and marathoning those flicks. It's just been really busy with a lot of work-related stuff, a lot of car-related stuff. I just got back in the swing of really writing reviews for Never-Ending Radical Dude, not just little brief articles about trailers here and there. Pretty soon you should hear read my review of The Accountant, Ben Affleck's latest espionage action movie that's out right now. You should be able to read the review for neverendingradicaldude.com pretty soon, hopefully. Maybe even by the time you listen to this podcast. Who knows? But I wanted to just do another kind of solo endeavor here, but it's not fully solo, actually. I lie, because the second half of this particular episode will actually be some pre-recorded material I have, an impromptu conversation I had with Jason from 3 Geeks regarding a filmmaker we both really admire and whose work, both past, present, and possibly future, we have a myriad of feelings about. Director Kevin Smith, writer-director Kevin Smith, and his latest offering, Yoga Hosers, which you can check out my review for that particular movie. I'll actually put all my links to everything I'm talking about on this episode down below in the description, so check out the link to that one as well. Stay tuned to listen to me and Jason talk a little bit about Kevin Smith, Yoga Hosers, and what we hope the direction will be that he's going in for his career. But in the meantime, I do have a couple things I would want to just maybe address right off the bat here. Well, for starters, a little bit of some site housekeeping. I do have a new series up, Public Domain Raider, which really was kind of just an impromptu idea that I thought, I can actually turn this into a full-fledged series. Originally, I just wanted to put up Night of the Living Dead in time for Halloween and have like a riff track going over top of it while you watch the movie. And then I found a very interesting thing regarding public domain movies, which again, I'll remind you, they're public domain, so free of copyright, able to utilize them in transformative purposes for critiques or reviews without having to fear any reciprocity from studios or any trademark owners. But also, if you felt there are certain public domain films that you have the right to redistribute and package as your own. And it's perfectly legal. Maybe a little unethical, perhaps, but perfectly legal due to a copyright loophole. Even then, I found something interesting with a couple of video offerings on YouTube already. Everyone except the original filmmakers were claiming copyright on copies of Night of the Living Dead, such as a Bollywood company, such as this techno nu metal group who did kind of an acid rockish type of soundtrack to the movie that incorporates the dialogue from the film into their remixes. So basically, if you have the original dialogue, for example, if you have the radio broadcaster telling the listeners what's going on around the country, around the world, they can copyright or they can claim that for monetization for themselves because it is technically sort of utilizing their audio from their recording. That's kind of scummy, but it's an interesting balancing act, I feel. So go check out Public Domain Raider, definitely, where I give more detailed ground rules for what I'm going to be doing with public domain films, specifically on that series. And hopefully you will enjoy my jokes. Hopefully you'll enjoy the content. And don't worry, many more episodes of Remake Revolution, some Let Me Get This Straight. I have a Great Moments in Geek I really do want to get filmed at some point. It's all just about getting motivated, but I'm enjoying this stuff too, just kind of whatever catches my eye in the moment randomly in terms of news or in terms of just fascinating topics. I'm going to kind of discuss here again in these mini McGTV episodes, even though they're not really mini episodes because sometimes they get a little bit longer than regular McGTV episodes. Anyways, moving on. Like I said, I want to sometimes be able to talk about an unusual story of the day that caught my eye, and maybe something else, and then I'll get into the conversation with Jason in a bit here. But first, I wanted to address this story that caught my eye. Again, just going through weird news outlets, as it were. I know I shouldn't put much faith in whatever the Sun is reporting on, but this starts out with a very, very sensational headline, needless to say. Kind of mean-spirited, honestly. But then the actual story about it, I find actually kind of heartwarming, as it were. This is entitled, Out of This World, Uganda's ugliest man with an quote-unquote alien head hopes to use his newfound fame to launch a music career. And this is about an individual named Godfrey Baguma. I hope I'm saying that right, or Baguma. I'll read a little bit here for you. When he was a child, Godfrey Baguma was scared to go out and mix with people because they would say he looked like a quote-unquote strange creature. Age 47, a cobbler from, oh God, I'm going to butcher this name, Kianzana? I hope I'm saying that right. If not, feel free to correct me. I apologize ahead in advance for butchering pronunciations. A cobbler from this area was thrust. First of all, good grammar there. Good God, the Son. He was thrust into the limelight for his severely deformed head. And then there's a picture that follows. Yes, it is a deformed head. Honestly, when I saw the first picture of Godfrey, I really wasn't taken aback. I'm just that very accepting of things that we would deem unusual. Like, as long as there's no viscera or things involved, I'm usually pretty okay with it, which kind of factors into topic number 2 I'll talk about. Now, his status as a local celebrity has led him to a career in African pop music, with his music videos racking up 3 million views on YouTube. And I've looked this up. I have one of his music videos actually synced up. I'm ready to listen to it right after this, just a smidgen of it. It's now at 4 million views, so he's doing pretty well with regards to views. But the singer's mystery condition has never been diagnosed, and he was fearful he would pass it on to his 8 children. Wow, 8 kids. My God. And that's the other part of this. I'm so accepting this because this dude is making out way better than I am in terms of YouTube popularity, in terms of music career, in terms of family. Holy God, man, 8 kids. Sheesh. He said, quote, "Right now I'm afraid because I have a little daughter who kind of resembles me. I look at her head and I believe that she might look like me. Sometimes I worry because my children are still very young. I worry about what would happen to them if I died. I think about that a lot now." It's kind of it's getting very sincere, despite that really eye-grabbing and lack of tact in the headline. This is actually a pretty engrossing, kind of very human story here. After Godfrey's health began declining, Tony Wilson, head of medicine at Mabarara Hospital in the western region of Uganda, decided to carry out tests to diagnose him. And there's some pictures of him going in an MRI. I believe this is a picture from his music video that follows. I'll just read this quick little blurb here. He first noticed an unusual swelling in his cheek when he was just 10 years old, and they're saying that it probably grew out further to encompass his whole head. Dr. Wilson said, "He has very widespread abnormality in his head and pressing on various parts of his brain. His posture is compressing his chest. That's why he's not breathing well." And in some of the pictures you can see he's very short in stature. His limbs, arms, and legs are very thin, seem very frail, and I believe in a capture of one of the videos, he is having to utilize crutches because his posture is so bad with regards to the weight of his head and displacement of the weight. 6 weeks after an MRI scan with Dr. Wilson, Godfrey received the full examination he had always hoped for. So, again, really heartwarming in a way. It's like, good, finally, he's able to kind of figure out what's happening with him, what this is. He was diagnosed with a rare condition called fibrodysplasia, which affects the growth and placement of his cells and tissue. And you can kind of tell, it's like certain areas, of course, of his body got a lot of development and certain areas did not. With the correct medication, Godfrey's health can be managed, and better still, he cannot pass the disease down to his children. That is, great, and that it was playing into his fear a lot of like, God, what happens if one of my kids ends up with this condition or so forth? They inherited it from me, and how will they be able to get along without my support? So good. That's really great. Godfrey added, I was so worried that the doctor wanted to operate on me. I feel glad that he just told me about my condition. I feel so good, and I have learned that I am a human being. Despite his unusual looks, Godfrey is not the only man in the world living with a severely deformed head. Now, of course, this isn't really news to us, but it's just kind of I'll give the Sun credit on this. Despite all their news baiting or headline grabbing tactics and at times being a little cavalier with what they consider to be news, this is ended up being a very kind of heartwarming piece, as it were. I'm glad that it is a condition he's able to manage, even though I'm sure it's no small feat having to kind of, get by day to day, but glad it's something that can be managed, glad that it's something that puts aside his fears and worries with regards to passing it on to his kids. And like I said, he's doing pretty well for himself. 8 kids. Damn, man. And singing career, let me have a listen to this music video that has 4 million views here. I'm not even going to attempt to try to get the pronunciation right on this title. The quote after it is new Ugandan music from 2014. So he's been doing this for a couple of years now, actually. And again, I'll put the link in the description below. But let me just quickly have a listen to it. Just about 30 seconds, just to get a sense of what type of music this guy really invests in. All right. Bright, sunny. He's got a better car than I do. He's got a good voice, honestly. He's got the backup dancers and everything. I do like his little, I feel bad saying little, but his kind of hype man next to him, short in stature, but I kind of enjoy this. This is, yeah. All right. I really kind of dug that. It's really energetic. I mean, it is very kind of what you would expect, very poppy, very bright, uplifting type of melody. His voice sounds really good. Let me see if it says a little. No, it doesn't say like. Oh, hang on. Someone in the comments actually said something here. They think this is roughly what he's saying in the song, saying he is good. He's a good and responsible guy, but people see him as worthless or useless. But the ladies are nice to him. They treat him right. They make fun of people, keep making fun of his appearance, yet most of them are not good people themselves. Some of them are hustlers, thieves, cheaters, lazy, and outright idiots. There's nothing he can do about his ugliness. He has learned to live with it and does appreciate it. He goes on to say, a man with money always gets women, so he gets his share of women. Okay. That is kind of the mentality of a lot of pop stars over here, to be fair. Those ladies that do not want to be seen with him, go to... Those ladies that do not want to be seen with him, go to him at night to get some of his loving. He says even though he is ugly, he will not... Oh my god, come on. Okay. Even though he says he is ugly, he will not date ugly women, nor will he date a beautiful woman that is messy and does not take good care of herself and her home. Okay. Well, again, to be fair, kind of what some pop stars over here sing about as well. Some of them don't have dreamboat looks, but yet they'll talk about how they don't want to hook up with quote-unquote unattractive people, but at the same time, they don't want to hook up with attractive people who are train wrecks in their personal lives. I think that's something that crosses over the waters a little bit. But like I said, the music's pretty good. I enjoy his voice, and yeah, I hope he continues to do well. Good on you, Godfrey. Good on you. And glad to hear, above all of this, his pop star that's rising, his money he's probably getting off of these views. Hopefully, that's a big thing. It's like I really hope he's getting the ad revenue off of his videos fairly. Above all that, though, glad to hear that it's a condition he's able to manage, and like I mentioned before, it's a condition that can't be passed on to his kids, that he can take solace in that and kind of put that worry that he had about that particular aspect aside. So hopefully Godfrey has a long, loving, and great life in music. And I'm glad that all this came about. He took essentially this title of unusual looking man or ugliest man in his area or whatever, and was able to spin it for something to be like, oh yeah, okay, fine. You guys think I'm ugly? Check out these chords. And then it's like, bam, pop music sensation. Good on you, sir. All right, so now what I mentioned before is I have a good tolerance and with regards to accepting like physical attributes, whether it's what we consider to be deformed or unusual. I am pretty good at accepting them from the get-go. Like I said, as long as they don't involve viscera or whatchamacallit, blood, that type of stuff. As long as they're just more about, okay, it's just unusual instead of like something that very much is kind of sticky or what we consider to be gross, like zit popping galore or whatever. Which brings me to this. It's a test I'm going to take. It's only about 4 minutes or so, but I believe there's a bit of a primer for it. Do you have, I want to say it's trypophobia? Trypophobia. Heard the guy say it right off the gate, but let me stop it really quick here. And again, I'll have a link to this video. A physiological test designed to test your itchy side, narrated and produced by Cameron the Cool. I believe this is fear of holes or fear of openings that are just unusual looking. So we'll hear what he has to say. So it's trypophobia, the unofficial word adopted by Urban Dictionary to describe persons with an irrational fear of clusters of holes, pods, circles, cracks, and or other asymmetrical shapes, which results in an all-over itchy feeling and a general uneasiness. Okay. So basically, this video is saying it's going to test your comfort level with this particular quote-unquote phobia or stimulus-based phobia to see if maybe you have trypophobia, if this is even a thing. So what it's going to do, let me see. All right, so it's giving me instructions with regards to how I should sit at my computer. I have to be at eye level, relax shoulders, elbow close to body, arms parallel to the floor, resting on arm support, or I'll have them resting on, I don't have arm support, so I'm resting on my table. Sit back, thighs must be fully rested on chair, back of legs must be a certain angle. Okay, this is basically sit comfortably with your feet on the ground and eye level at your computer. All right, so it's basically going to give me about 2 minutes and 30 seconds of, I guess, different images or videos, perhaps, involving holes, cracks, openings, crevices, whatever. And I'm not to move to scratch. If I feel itching at any point, I am not supposed to, or if I do move to scratch, I have to make a note of what the time is, of how long it took for me to give in, essentially. So I'm going to challenge myself here to not move to scratch an itch if I feel an itch coming on. I kind of feel an itch coming on already just based off of this, so maybe I might be trypophobic, who knows? But I'll try to describe what's going on as it's happening in real time and my response to it here, because I know it's kind of hard to do with a video reaction here, but again, just to play it safe, I'm just going to describe to you what's going on with regards to this trypophobia test. Here we go. Starting off, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's not too bad. It's just a hole in an apple. Okay, a worm in a hole in an apple. Kit Kat bar or chocolate bar? That's not too bad. That looks like rock. Like, almost like a moon crater almost. Honeycomb, okay, with a bee. I think the bee helps out a little bit on that. That looks like a pancake being made. I have no idea what that is, but it's unusual. What the... Okay. Oh my god! What? That's an animal. What is that? A frog? Ew! They're coming out of the frog's... Little frogs coming out of the frog's back? Okay. Okay, that's just weird. I'm itching a little, but I'm not scratching it. That's a plant. I'm okay with that. Yeah, they said like seeds or whatever. Oh, that's the frog again. Oh, that's just a gross looking frog. I'm not scratching yet, but I'm definitely kind of uncomfortable. Okay, we're back to the plants. I'm okay with this. Oh, do we have to see them in motion? Okay, this is like a nature documentary now. If the frogs actually like come, they're just wiggling underneath the surface. But if they come like bursting out at a moment's notice, okay, ew, okay, I'm itching, but I'm not scratching yet. I'm okay. That's a rash. I don't know about. That's just an illustration. That's not too bad. If it was an actual like photo, I think I would be more grossed out. Acne, I get. What the? That looks like Photoshop to me. Yeah, that's Photoshop. But I guess the idea is like, even if it is Photoshop, it's still supposed to bother you, but it's not convincing enough for me to be bothered by it. I have a little bit of an itch, but it's subsided since the frog. And it's subsiding even more because my brain is telling me that none of that is real. So basically, even though I did have an itching sensation at times, it didn't have anything really to do with being trypophobic. It had more to do with just saying like your brain is connecting that to be like that could be your skin, and that's bringing about the stimulation of itching. But I didn't scratch. I didn't give in. I didn't scratch. There were points, especially with the frog. I think it was because the frog video was actually in motion, and you could actually see the little frogs popping out of its back. So I think definitely that added a certain degree of unpleasantness to it, I want to say. The rest of it, though, I mean, that's just stuff you see in nature regardless. Like, I found looking at the seeds or whatever, the plants that were cross-sectioned, that was actually kind of peaceful, honestly. I was actually pretty relaxed. And like I said, the skin conditions, some of them looked pretty legit, but they just looked like rashes to me, like regular rashes or zits that you would see. And for the most part, just seeing rashes or zits doesn't bother me. If someone goes out of their way to like pop a zit in front of me, or if I see a video of someone popping a zit, that's when it gets uncomfortable for me, because that definitely, I'm like, ew. But especially when it's photoshopped holes on people to make it look like they got a rash or whatever, or some weird skin condition, that doesn't really register with me. I know there was one image that has been kind of popular for a while where apparently like people made up a disease where there's like lesions or blisters or something on your eyeball, and like it has the photo of someone like holding their eye wide open and it's nothing but like these holes or lesions or whatever. That's fake. That's clearly fake. And that stuff doesn't really get to me so much. Like I said, my itching subsided after the frog video. So that was weird. The frog part of it, definitely. But hey, nature's a funny thing. So that's really all I had for you today. A heartwarming story about a Ugandan pop star on the rise. And to test to see if you will get itchy watching videos of holes, essentially. All right. On to my talk with Jason and Kevin Smith. Enjoy. How you been?
Good, man. I was watching Designated Survivor. I'm actually enjoying it, but the night of, I'm telling you, buddy, you got to check that out. I think you'll like it.
I saw a couple of episodes of it. I got into it. I like Totoro quite a bit, so...
Yeah, he is. Oh my! They're going to be Emmys all over that show when it comes time.
And it's got the one kid from Nightcrawler. So
yes, yeah, I
liked him in Nightcrawler, so I'll probably give him a shot here. Here, let me get the microphone a little bit closer here. But yeah, so I finally went and saw The Accountant.
Oh, how was that? I haven't read the review yet.
Well, my nerd review isn't up yet, but
okay. I saw the picture.
Yeah,
that was really good.
I liked it. I thought it was, I mean, it's not gonna be like one of my best of the year by any means, but it's fine. It's fun. Affleck does a really good job in it, so
it's no yoga hosers.
No, we'll get to that by far, definitely. But it's really weird because I was kind of thinking about this beforehand too, and I put up a link to this trailer as well earlier. But one of the previews I got in front of it was for an M. Night Shyamalan movie called Split with James McAvoy, and he's playing like 23 different personalities.
Yeah,
so, and it looks interesting, but there are moments in it where I'm definitely like, oh, he's overacting quite a bit.
I like M. Night's last couple of movies, Devil, and I liked The Visit quite a bit.
Well, there were parts of The Visit I enjoyed, but I was still kind of... I mentioned in my post earlier that I want to be genuinely invested in a suspenseful M. Night Shyamalan movie again. Mm-hmm. And there were moments where The Visit was working for me up until about the ending of it, or up until about when they really start to show off how crazy they are. And then I was kind of laughing. And that was the thing. It's like when it's really kind of building up in the beginning, I'm on board for it a little bit, but then pretty much when she's at the door scratching and stuff, I wasn't unnerved by that as much as other people probably were. But I thought it was okay. Hopefully this means a return to form for him, because that's the thing. Is like I likes me a ridiculous M. Night Shyamalan movie, even though it's not meant to be ridiculous, even though he's going into it saying, he's saying, oh man, this is so profound what I'm doing. Like, and that was the thing. Even though he didn't direct it, I couldn't get into Devil. That was one of the other ones I kind of found hilarious. Mm-hmm. Especially with the one guy saying, the devil is here because jelly side on the toast. I'm like, I know that's an actual belief probably out there, but I'm just like, really? We're basing this scary story around this then? Okay. I just couldn't get into it after that moment. I was like, this is malarkey. But the thing about the McAvoy movie is that it's supposed to be a sort of sequel to Unbreakable, so that's what's got me really excited.
Nice.
Like, I can imagine it's like maybe this character is like one of those other people with powers type thing that are out there. Maybe Bruce Willis shows up at the end of this one to rescue them or something. I don't know.
Or have them join a team called the Avengers. Or the Unbreakables.
The Unbreakables. There we go. He's gonna. Well, no, he wouldn't team up with Sam Jackson because Sam Jackson was the bad guy.
Yeah.
But no, I'm intrigued by that idea. I mean, if it turns out to be as much of a sequel to Unbreakable as 10 Cloverfield Lane was a sequel to Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's more like a spiritual sequel, I just want it to be good. And good in the way that it's intended. Not good like, this is going to be hilarious to get drunk and watching. But it kind of brings me to, I guess, what we were going to focus on for tonight, because in a way, Kevin Smith has kind of gotten... He's on the opposite side of the spectrum, because he lately has been going out of his way to make, funny movie. Or, he's always tried to make funny movies, essentially. But lately, I don't know. His funny movies just haven't been ringing true for me lately. And Yoga Hosers is just the most recent example of this. Did you finally get to see it?
Yeah. Max and I watched it.
Oh, that's right.
Week.
Yeah, you guys watched it.
Yeah, that was the movie that led us to drink when we did the No Retreat, No Surrender viewing.
That's right. See, that was the thing. I figured you guys just got wasted in No Retreat, No Surrender at that point, but I didn't realize that was kind of a lead up.
Yeah. Yoga Hosers drove us to drink.
I can tell he's wanting some jokes to work in that. He's wanting a particular comedic voice to come through, and it's just not doing it. It just wasn't doing it for me. And the whole reason I wanted to have you on here to kind of talk about it was because, we've discussed Kevin Smith movies on Three Geeks, and I don't know. So I went over my review of it just out of curiosity to kind of see if I still felt that way about the film, and saw some clips online here and there of the movie just to refresh my memory. And I was just, yep. There's no getting around it, man. It's just like there's something really off with his style lately, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I liked Tusk fine. I thought it was good for what it was. But Yoga Hosers, man. Kevin Smith said he set out to make a movie for the 13-year-old girl inside of him, or when he was a 13-year-old girl, what he would have wanted to see. And I'm telling you, man, as a father of daughters, like, this movie was made for them. Like, it was not, I don't understand why he would make a movie not for his audience and for, a different audience. But yeah, he definitely hit that 11-year-old market, because it was awkward. Some scenes were awkward to watch as a grown-up. Like, they have these girls in weird positions doing yoga and stuff, and it's like, I almost feel perverted sitting through this film. And like you said, a lot of the jokes just, they weren't hitting because they weren't written for guys like us. They were definitely written for, the teenage girl that sits in front of her phone all day. And I don't really understand the thinking process behind going that route, I guess.
Well, first of all, it adds an extra creepy factor almost in the fact that, like, that's his daughter he's directing too.
You said that too, and Max and I were watching. I'm like, I don't know if I would record my daughter from that angle. It seems weird.
But I mean, to be fair, like, I think, and she's obviously grown up in a household that's pretty liberal. I mean, he's always token. And everything like that. And that's the thing, is, like, this project was very much, I feel, constructed with the idea of, like, you know what, I'm going to indulge a little Hollywood nepotism here, and I'm going to put my kid in a movie, whatever. But at least, to make it, the intention was to make it an enjoyable journey into nepotism for, I guess, both him and Johnny Depp. Because it's Johnny Depp's kid as well who plays her friend. The other Colleen. But that's not really my big issue with the movie, because honestly, in something else, those girls would be perfectly fine. I could see they definitely have their parents' acting chops, or at least their parents' talent has been imparted to them in some way, shape, or form. I could see them working in another teen comedy, or even another horror type film, just not this one. I don't know what it is about this one necessarily that it really just kind of... It hasn't soured me to Kevin Smith necessarily, but I definitely haven't had an urge to go revisit Smodcast for a while since I've seen the movie.
Yeah, same way. I listen to podcasts like every day, and Kevin Smith has definitely been a part of my podcast feed. And yeah, I've kind of skipped over a few this week, mainly just because I don't want to hear about Yoga Hosers again. Like, I don't know. The movie just... And I'm pretty much an optimism. I think I'm the most optimistic person on the Three Geeks podcast when it comes to movies. I like some bad stuff, but for this, I can't get behind it. And I wish Kevin Smith would find that voice that he had early on.
And yeah, that's the thing. It's like I can, excuse me, I can appreciate so bad it's good. I would consider Tusk to be in the so bad it's good category. This one, not so much. Like he went into it saying it's like, oh yeah, people are gonna say it's horrible, but that's the fun part of it. It's not enjoyable bad for me. This one,
yeah, Tusk walked that line between like goofy, creepy, silly, but still fun. Mm-hmm. And with this movie, it feels like he crossed the line, like drove a couple miles down the road from the line, and that's where he's playing in the ball field. It doesn't have that same like balance that I believe Tusk had. So yeah.
Well, and this is actually what I wanted to kind of propel into a little bit, is because I feel there's a certain point in his filmography where you can argue that he is being self-indulgent. And I mean, he has a right to be. If he has the money to finance his own ideas and stuff like that, sure, be self-indulgent, certainly. But it's self-indulgence to the point of that so long as it indulges him, it's okay, and not really challenging him. And with regards to wanting to challenge the audience anymore. Like, you could argue that, sure, Clerks, when he first did Clerks, that could be a self-indulgent movie, perhaps. It's this novice indie director, just got out of film school, working a counter job, putting together all the money for the movie with his friends, and shooting it purely for the sake of, I want to tell this story about this job. But there was also this ambition, I feel, to kind of be like, let me try to reach my generation through this too. Let me try to make this relatable to all the clerks out there, all the teenagers out there who I feel could vibe to this. Because he's gone on record as saying, like, Richard Linklater at that time and Slacker and a lot of stuff really spoke to him. And I feel there was that drive. It's like, I want to make my own version of Slacker. I want to be able to have an impact on my generation's cultural mindset, even though he had limited resources. And I don't know, ever since Red State, it kind of feels like he's just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to tell whatever stories I want, but it's nothing really meant to challenge the audience too much. Red State kind of did, because at least he was tackling something that was paralleling a group in real life, Westboro Baptist and Fred Phelps. Like, at least he had the kind of ambition to want to take someone down a peg.
Yeah, it was almost like a passion project. And with Tusk and Yoga Hosers, I feel like they're movies that started as a joke on one of his podcasts, and trying to build, an hour-and-a-half film out of one joke is kind of hard to do. And like I said, with Tusk, I feel like you get that balance, but you kind of could see the joke wearing thin pretty quick in Yoga Hosers. And I just love to see Kevin Smith sit down and really just trying to find what he's passionate about again. Because, Clerks 2, obviously you could see the passion and the director and the movie that he put in, and you could tell the effort. And I wish he would just sit down, kind of just see where he's at now, and try to put that passion maybe in a project like Clerks 3, and maybe that's what he needs to revitalize his career, the movie that started it all.
Yeah, especially when it comes to the original properties, I feel like he's doing fine in terms of, visiting other franchises and doing what he wants there. His directing duties on TV shows is serviceable work, definitely, but it's just more along the lines of definitely what you were saying with Tusk is that it started as a joke that he and Scott Mosier kind of ran back and forth, and it developed into a story. And the ambition, I guess, in that film was to kind of take that weird premise and actually test his chops a little bit with legitimate, like, body horror, I guess. Or instead of paralleling something in real life on a horror slant, to actually just try to make an original horror story for himself. And for the most part, that movie did work. It's stupid, definitely, but it's focused at least. And yet with Yoga Hosers is just all over the place. And even with all the tangents that he can get on in his scripts, Kevin Smith movies for the most part have been really disciplined, I feel.
Yeah, me too. I think he's really good at that balance. At least, like I said, he was up until a point, but yeah, I agree with you.
Because this one, it really just felt like he just threw everything. First of all, he took a big long toke, and then he had a board up, and then just threw darts at all the different ideas he had up there. There was yoga. He's like, let's return to Clerks, Nazis, Bratwurst, Satan. I'm going to get Ralph Garman in there somewhere. It's like, you could tell this is just kind of really ramshackle with regards to, and usually, like, I don't know, which movie would you consider to be his most focused movie? Like, where he's very on point with story beats, with character development, with the themes he wants to stick to. Which one do you feel?
The movie that I think Kevin Smith is firing on all cylinders, and it may not be my favorite movie in the Views universe, but I personally think it's his best work, is Chasing Amy. I feel like he nails the drama, he nails the comedy. It's a perfect blend of everything that he has shown throughout his career that he is good at, and I believe that he really nails it in Chasing Amy.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that, definitely. That's what I mean. It's like a lot of his early stuff there. His first 4 or 5 movies at least have a pretty solid through line through and throughout. That even though he can go off and go on a tangent of what is what's his name? I can't believe I'm forgetting. Banky. He can go off on a tangent, whatever Banky's problem is and stuff like that. Silent Bob can tell this story for a little bit, but it ties back into the theme of what Ben Affleck's going through in that movie. Definitely. I'd have to say Dogma for me, honestly, because, again, that's where he's really testing the waters of people's comfort zones and talking about stuff, in this case, religion and spirituality. And it's got weird stuff in it, most definitely. Angels, shit demons, Jason Lee with horns, if that's weird for you. But at the same time, all of it works well to service this, really personal story, I feel, that he's trying to tell about his own spirituality in that movie. And the jokes work, still.
Absolutely, man. And again, Chasing Amy was a story that was personal to him. Dogma was another story that was personal to him. And his other movie, I'd put Dogma number 2 also as far as his best made films. But for me, the third one would be Clerks 2. I feel like was also his third best movie, where he's firing off on all cylinders. And again, it's something that was personal to him at the time, dealing with being 30 years old. And what does it mean when you're, in a very similar situation as you were 10 years prior to that? So I think anytime he brings something personal to the game, I think he's a lot more focused. And as you can tell with especially these 3 movies, he gives us good work, good masterpieces.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that would be kind of my wondering, is that if it is something about a personal investment in a story that can drive most of his movies pretty well, what is his fascination with Canada?
I don't know. He's a Degrassi fan. As I remember, he was on Degrassi because I knew somebody who watched it, and they said James and Bob was on it, so I checked it out, and then I was doing research, and I guess Kevin Smith made a joke that his entire career was so he could one day be on Degrassi. So he's got a thing for Canada. Like, it's been quite a long time coming.
I guess he went to film school up in Canada. Maybe that's probably where he met Scott Mosier's Canadian, so that's probably where he met him, and they got acquainted, and probably you could trace the origin of everything he's done to his time in Canada, perhaps. But even in his earlier stuff, there is not much of a fixation with anything Canadian per se. It's only until you get to this True North stuff that his love for those stereotypical sorry about that type of jokes comes out. I can't really recall any major jokes or plot twists in his other films that revolved around Canada.
The only Canada reference I know in his earlier movies was in Mallrats. Shannon Doherty's character wears a Degrassi shirt.
Okay, so that's about it.
That's it. Yeah, that's stretching it too, but that's
Yeah, and then you could just play that up to he loves the show, so it's just an homage to that at that point. But yeah, up until now, it's like, what is the focus here with Canada? Because I don't know about you, but these stereotypes, I outgrew a lot of this story about that type of stuff and syrup on everything. I outgrew that in high school, most definitely. I don't know about you, but
no, I find stereotypical humor very funny. Like that's one of the reasons I like Sausage Party. But yeah, in this movie, I did not feel like it was executed well at all. This movie upsets me.
Not when it beats it over your head every 5 seconds with how Canadian it is.
Oot, a boot. Like they did the whole sorry boot that scene went on too long.
Also, I'm seeing it from perspective. I don't know if you have a similar situation, but I have family that lives up in Montreal in Quebec, and actually some family that lived in Edmonton for a while and lived there their whole lives. Not one trace of that type of accent or those types of sensibilities in them. So I'm probably getting a different perspective on it, perhaps, just because I've spent time around them enough to kind of be like, this isn't how they act. Or at least not all of them. As Robin Williams once put in one of his live albums, he did the whole Minnesotan accent in one of his shows. He's like, oh, don't you know? And he was like, oh, yeah, well, I know some of you in the audience are saying, oh, we don't all talk like that, but a bunch of you fucking do. So I guess there's some merit to it, but it just feels, I don't know. It feels like just the weakest type of comedy to me. And of course, comedy is subjective, but right now it felt very flimsy to kind of base a majority of your humor around the way people talk or around the fact that even if they're trying to kill these teenage girls, they're being polite about it.
Yeah, that's like I was saying. It feeds into this movie was made for kids, which I was telling Max that we were going to be talking about this tonight on the podcast, and he's like, it's kind of insulting to even say that this movie was made for kids, to think that kids are like at that level. But I'm around the schools a whole lot, and sadly, it is at that level when it comes to cell phones and stuff. So. Like I said, I think this movie was made for them. One of the things I wish Kevin Smith would do, because it's not working for him. It works for Seth Rogen very, very well, but he is not creative on pot, in my honest opinion. And I really think that he needs to try to get off of it and kind of see what his fresh mind can do, because he didn't used to do this. When he was back making all of his movies, he was sober. It wasn't until he made Zack and Miri that
Seth Rogen put him on that, actually, yeah.
So I know potheads that can function in life, and I know some that can't, and Kevin Smith just does not creatively enhance them whatsoever. He is not Seth Rogen, and I wish he would get away from it just long enough to see. I want to see what this guy can do, because I'm a fan of his work. I even loved Red State, and I know that's kind of in the start of this territory that I just said I didn't like of his, but I just wish he would kind of find his old self again.
Well, that Red State, I feel, actually is the bit of the turning point there, because Red State was where he kind of, I feel, had this mentality of, whatever, people aren't going to like my stuff from here on out, so I'll just do it for me, essentially, is because there were, I believe, something about having to do with the critics, and there was some kind of controversy surrounding people wanting to see the film or something like that, and he had an issue, or they had an issue with him, and he had an issue. It was because I think they were really rough on him about Cop Out.
Yeah, I think that was the one.
And he was still sore about Cop Out, because Cop Out, it was, for several reasons, probably his low point. For him, probably, he'll admit that, because he had to work with Bruce Willis, and that didn't turn out as well as he'd hoped. And so he was probably still raw about that. So he kind of really went after critics during Red State, and that kind of soured the relationship for a bit, to the point where his next couple of films, he's just like, I'm just going to do these for me, and they can think whatever of them.
It was Cop Out and then Red State.
Yep.
Which was right after Zack and Miri, which is when he started using.
I mean, he can. I mean, recreationally do what you want, man, and stuff like that. But he's gone on record as saying, like, smoking has helped him focus, and helps him dedicate time to his work a lot better. Probably not in the way that he's thinking. Perception can be a little boggled. Like, you might be focusing on the wrong stuff, maybe. I don't know. I don't want. That's the thing, is like, as much as I'm griping about this stuff, of course, I can't tell him step one for his own process. But it just feels like such a poor form right now for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd agree with you on that. It's like maybe he just needs to ratchet back a little bit how much he smokes when he writes. Get back to stuff that you actually might have more of a personal investment in other than a country. And
he's making movies because he thinks it's a funny idea. Like, oh, turn this guy into a walrus. It's funny. Or these two girls fighting Brotzies. That's funny, but it's not passion. He has no passion for it. It's just a little funny joke that he thought was funny. Red State, he did have passion for that project. He had a story to tell. His brother is a gay man and he was seeing these ministers and preachers on TV just spewing some of the worst hate in the world. So, he felt the need to address that, and, passion came out. That's the one thing I think he just needs. He needs passion. Don't follow a joke. Follow something you really care about. There's
a point where I feel it's like there needs to be that drive to want to challenge not just yourself, but challenge your audience a little bit more.
Yeah, and absolutely.
It actually kind of came through. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this, I really haven't had an urge to revisit Smodcast podcasts lately in the past month or so since I've seen Yoga Hosers. I didn't realize I hadn't done it until now. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't listened to a Smodcast since I saw the movie, and I haven't watched. The only things I've seen on YouTube didn't have anything to do with him because he was in Canada filming his Flash episode. And Mark Bernardin had like Phil Lamar on, and that was a fun podcast. Mark Bernardin ran Fat Man on Batman for a couple of episodes, and I was vibing to that for a while. But then I kind of left it again once Kevin came back, and I think it had to do. There was a video they had on their channel, which was Kevin and Ralph read the reviews to Yoga Hosers.
I watched part of that.
I didn't get a cringe factor off of it really that much. How about for you, the part that you saw? What did you feel towards that video?
I watched that before I watched Yoga Hosers, so I thought part of it was actually kind of funny because I didn't have the context of the film yet, and then parts of it were you feel bad watching Kevin Smith read this stuff about himself.
But at the same time, he was like saying it's fine. It's like that was a part for me that wasn't really computing, because even at some points when Ralph was reading the reviews to him, Ralph would be like, seriously, dude, you don't have any kind of instinctual response to what these people are saying, or you don't have like a visceral response for these people. And Kevin's like, no, man, it's dumb. And I might not agree entirely with what they're saying, but it's just dumb. And I was kind of with Ralph at times where I was kind of giving him this look about, dude, care a little bit.
Absolutely.
And he preempts it all by saying, it's like, I know the movie's stupid. The movie's meant to be stupid, so I'm going to understand if people think it's stupid. But at the same time, I don't know. There's a difference between, again, this ties in with Shyamalan too, being stupid but also entertaining at least, or being stupid but appreciating that there was some ambition to it. Like Shyamalan, Lady in the Water, for example. You've seen Lady in the Water, I take it?
I've seen parts of Lady in the Water. I haven't retained too much of it though.
Oh my god, dude. That movie is bad. It is pretty bad. And I know he went into it being like, this is going to be a great epic. Like, this is going to be my original fantasy tale. He even marketed it as, this used to be a bedtime story I would tell my kids. Holy God, I would love to have heard M. Night Shyamalan try to tell this story, like a bedtime story. Because I'll give it this, it's ridiculous and dumb and silly, unintentionally, but I'll give him props. He's swinging for the fences at least. He is going for all this batshit stuff. And I can at least appreciate that about it, is that he's got ambition. It's very misguided, but it is ambitious. With Yoga Hosers, I don't feel ambition. It's like, you can say it's stupid and silly and meant for kids all you want. Even then, you have to have something challenging there for me to want to care. and it just isn't.
Yeah, I'm on Kevin Smith's IMDb page right now. I'm just looking. He's got some stuff. He's got the Mallrats show, which he does seem passionate about the Mallrats thing. He really wants to get that done. So
yeah,
maybe that'll be his saving, his thing that gets everybody back on board.
Well, I think definitely after Red State and stuff, I think it's maybe just having to deal with him wanting to get that drive back. After Red State, I kind of feel he was like, you know what, I've had my fun with filmmaking, maybe I'll focus on other things. And then along came this idea for Tusk, and bitten again by the directing bug. Maybe he's just slowly building back up his passion for stuff. But again, that video with him responding to the critiques of Yoga Hosers, you can't sense that he really cares that much. He's just kind of chuckling and laughing. There are times where he gets a little red in the face and you kind of feel like something did sting perhaps, but he immediately buries it and doesn't want to address it any further. But
yeah, I mean, it's the movie he made with his daughter. You'd think he might be a little bit more upset by it.
Well, I think that's where he would probably, you'd see a lot more passion from him, because the reviews that they read on the video weren't necessarily aimed towards anything except the story and the directing. Like, it had nothing to do with the cast, even though Ralph on the video said, like, oh, they went after me for all those lame impressions. Which, honestly, Ralph was the highlight of the movie for me, honestly.
Yeah, me too, absolutely.
Just because I've never seen actual video of Ralph doing those impressions. So when he does like his Stallone voice or his Pacino voice, his face is hilarious to watch. So that was a treat for me in that movie, at least. Yeah, it had more just to do with, like, why would you do this? As opposed to saying, like, these kids suck at acting or whatever. Yeah, if they had gone out and said, like, your daughter sucks at acting, I'm sure you would have seen an angry response from him. But
now, most of the talk about the girls has been pretty positive.
Yeah, like
Lily Rose Depp and Harley Quinn Smith. Yeah, they've been getting pretty good.
Yeah, like I said, if they were in any other movie, they would be like the highlight of the film. Most definitely, they would be kind of the silver lining to that if they were in any other film except this one. But where the focus isn't even really on them so much as just look how silly Canada is. It's hard to gravitate to their performances, even though they are doing okay. That's what I feel, is that he needs to not only want to have the passion back, but say, like, challenge his audience and not just his core stable of fans. Like, I'd say we're pretty big Kevin Smith fans, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And even when we're kind of saying, this really wasn't a strong outing for you, sir. You have to want to reinvigorate the fan base for something again. I don't want to be just someone who's blindly kissing someone's ass just because I like a majority of their work.
Yeah, no, me too, absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah, hopefully stuff like Mallrats, and whatever he does with Clerks, if there's going to be another movie, hopefully that stuff can maybe bring about some of that old school passion that he had.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to see him get some more original material out under the lines of Red State. Like I said, I just like to see his passion come back. I have said bad things about Yoga Hosers, but it is not the worst movie I've watched this year. I don't regret watching it. It did have moments, like you said, Ralph Garman's impressions in the middle of the film were pretty funny. And, the parts with his wife playing, his daughter's mom in the movie, telling her to take the switchblade, I thought that was pretty cool. And there are redeeming parts of this movie, but the thing about Tusk in this movie that I really didn't like was Johnny Depp. I felt like he took the worst part of Tusk and extended it throughout this movie too.
Well, again, I hate to kind of be going over the movie again, but I agree with you right off the bat, is that this movie right now is sitting at my third worst viewing of the year. So it's not the absolute worst. And by worst, even to, like, I wasn't even furious at this movie. My top two, I'm more furious about than this one. This one, it's more of a disappointment. But again, it's also about the idea that you have good performers in your movie. They'll make the most of their time on screen, at least. Like, yeah. I'll give Johnny Depp props. I don't like this. Is it Guy or Guy? I can't remember.
Guy Lapointe.
I'm not a fan of this character, but I can at least appreciate that he's trying to do something with it.
Yes.
And especially, I think if anything, Johnny was like, yeah, let's do another one of these movies.
Johnny Depp likes playing wacky characters.
Yeah, but at the same time, too, it needs to be a little bit more focused. I had no idea what type of comedy they were going for, because then they would go for kind of the Mel Brooks-ish type of comedy where his mole was always moving on his face. Yeah. And yeah, that works like once, but then you see it's working all the time. And I don't know. It wasn't resonating with me. All I felt was like you're trying to be like young Frankenstein with the hunchback whose hump keeps moving. Yeah, at least performers in his movies are trying. Haley Joel Osment, I'm so glad that kid's back to work.
I know.
I liked him in Tusk. He was pretty good in Tusk, even though it was a more straightforward role. Did you see Spoils of Babylon or The Spoils Before Dying by any chance?
I have not. No.
Oh, you should. You were recommending The Night Of. I'm recommending The Spoils of Babylon and The Spoils Before Dying. They're great, like limited series. Funny or Die produces them on IFC, and
awesome. I am emailing to myself right now.
And he is really good in those playing like over the top characters. So, and I saw this movie he was in recently, Sex Ed, where it's basically 40-year-old virgin, except the 40-year-old virgin is a sex ed teacher for middle schoolers. So it's charming, and he plays a good lead for it. But I'm so glad that guy's back working, at least. Maybe a return to View Askew stuff will iron some stuff out for him. I just want him to care beyond his Smodcast sphere. I want to say I call it the Smodcast sphere.
Yeah, I miss him working with the familiar faces. I miss seeing Jason Lee in his films, and I miss seeing Brian O'Halloran in his movies, and all of those guys. I'd like to see a reunion of that, even if it's an original story and it's not the View Askew stuff. I would just like to see him get back to working with his friends.
Well, yeah, not just that, but also to kind of brand. Like, I know View Askew is its own universe, but at least it felt like he was still reaching for stuff outside of his comfort zone. Like this True North stuff, it feels just a little too comfortable right now. And once he gets done with Moose Jaws, I hope he's done kind of being like, okay, that was a good kind of experiment. Now I'm gonna go bold again. We'll have to see how Moose Jaws does. I don't know. Maybe that might actually turn out to be good, because at least that premise, along with Tusk, it sounds simple enough that it can't go too off the rails. And
yeah, and the rumor is we're going to get Jay and Silent Bob back. Yeah,
that's kind of a cool mention as well. But also, I know this from listening to this podcast stuff, is that he's a big Jaws fan.
Yeah,
that's the movie he grew up loving. So I'm sure he'll try to do as much homage and inside jokes on that movie as possible. I just hope it's not too much. I don't know, man. You got any plans for, I guess, the Halloween weekend, I want to say? Anything big coming up?
Yeah, I'm going to my sister-in-law's party dressed as the Joker. And then the Three Geeks podcast Sunday night, we're all dressing up in costume. And that should be pretty fun. Max is coming as a fat ninja. I'm going to go as Dan. So that'll be awesome. And Dan's coming as Jesus, I think. I can't wait to see what you show up as. But, yeah, it's pretty much my weekend. I'm going to watch some more TV. My plan is to get Twin Peaks Season 1 done by the end of the weekend, too.
Oh, you're going to love my costume, man. It is going to be off the chain. Guess that's it. I don't know.